Well folks, we're just a few days away from the big one. WrestleMania 30, the granddaddy of them all, the showcase of the immortals! I guess. Does the build-up make it feel like the biggest event of the year to you? The decade even? It looks like fans could finally be getting the match they've wanted, with Daniel Bryan likely being inserted into the main event for the title. But what if he doesn't win? Are fans really willing to pay all that money to run the risk of being disappointed on the 30th edition of wrestling's biggest show? Well, technically some people already have paid for that experience since they bought the network. I'm sure there's going to be at least one entertaining match on this year's card. There almost always is, but those awesome matches don't always outweigh the sum of the rest of the crap on the shows they're featured on. When you have 30 years of history on your side, you know there are going to be some duds. And this week on Wrestling with Regret, I'm going to rank them the top 8 worst WrestleManias of all time. Number 8. WrestleMania 1. As much as the WWE hype machine might tell you otherwise, the first WrestleMania was not the magical, mythical event that they say it is. I'm going to cut them some slack since it was the first of its kind. They had some obvious growing pains to go through, but come on guys, Mania is supposed to be a showcase of your best and brightest wrestlers creating awesome moments. Instead, we had Playboy Buddy Rose wearing a random jobber mask for one night against Tito Santana, a King Kong Bundy squash, Andre the Giant and Big John Studd plodding around the ring for 6 minutes, and Lord Alfred Hayes bumbling through his lines all night.
Now, having the privilege of opening WrestleMania, let us hear what they had to say, a pre-taped recording. John Studd says, "I am the only true champion, Giant." And Andre the Giant says, "I am the Giant." But it is the first of our Wrestling Rock connection matches.
This was really a 2-match card, due entirely to the celebrity factor, especially the women's title match. What do you remember more about that match? That Wendy Richter beat Leilani Kai after a botched finish? Or, oh my god, Cyndi Lauper was there! The main event was a great match, if a little insane at times, but it's so odd that the first main in WrestleMania history was a friggin' tag team match. That would never happen today, no matter how big a celebrity was involved. But it's okay because the WWF was able to work out the kinks from that first show and be able to build on that and make it a bigger, stronger, Number 7. WrestleMania 27. If you saw WrestleMania 17, you would have already seen the one match worth watching at 27. But other than Triple H Undertaker, the card was pretty lackluster. Who in their right mind got hyped up for this year's Mania once it was announced that Jerry Lawler was going to face Michael Cole? But at least since this was a WrestleMania match, that meant that the storyline was going to end with the obvious conclusion of Lawler beating Cole. I'm sorry, that's not true. This bullshit lasted for a whole other month. Then there was the 6-person tag match that featured Snooki and Trish Stratus. Rumor has that John Morrison gave Stratus the cold shoulder during their post-match celebration to defend the honor of his girlfriend Melina, who allegedly felt she was bumped off the Mania card in favor of Trish. Val Venus, what do you have to say about all this?
Keep trying to turn that hoe into a housewife. Fuck you, Melina. Fuck you, Morrison.
In wrestling, you're never supposed to stick up for your significant other. Why didn't Mark Merrill or Jerry Lawler pull this guy aside and warn him of this? Miz Cena should not have been as lame as it was. It looked like The Miz was finally becoming the future of the company based on how he was booked during the past year. This match could have been seen as a passing of the torch, then The Rock had to come along and dick it all up. The Rock's role as host of WrestleMania was utterly pointless except for this match, and all it did was set up the match he and Cena would have at WrestleMania 28. That's right, they used the main event of their biggest pay-per-view of the year to set up another match 1 year later. Well, thank goodness this match served a purpose. So in rare WrestleMania fashion, the heel walks away the champion in the main event, while the most popular wrestler in the company gets the shaft. Now where have I seen that before? Number 6. WrestleMania 2000. WrestleMania 2000 was at once one of the craziest and one of the lamest manias in recent memory. A show that featured only one singles match, this ran the gamut from great matches like the Triangle Ladder match or the Triple Threat for the European and Intercontinental titles to stinkers like the Catfight and TNA versus Head Cheese. The main event sticks in my craw to this very day. You can debate whether or not it's a good thing that Triple H broke the pattern of the good guy winning at the end of every WrestleMania, but the whole McMahon in every corner fiasco was what put this over the top. I've made it clear in the past that I generally despise any storyline involving a McMahon. When it comes to this family, they're never secondary players. They always come first in a feud involving wrestlers, which I find counterproductive for a wrestling company. The wrestlers involved on this night were ultimately immaterial to the latest page in the wild, crazy story that is the McMahon family timeline. And let's not forget that it completely ruined Mick Foley's retirement angle, which only happened 6 weeks prior. I sure am glad we got emotionally invested in that moment. Still, as bad as this Mania was, it was still a step up from its predecessor. Number 5. WrestleMania 15. WrestleMania is supposed to be the apex, the high point of WWE storylines every year. And it's safe to say that in 1999, WrestleMania 15 was the apex of the screwiest, Vince Russo-iest booking we've ever seen. For example, did you know that in the months leading up to Mania, the Road Dogg was pursuing the Hardcore title and his partner Billy Gunn was going after the Intercontinental title? So why was it that at WrestleMania, Billy Gunn was the Hardcore champ and Road Dogg the Intercontinental champ? Your guess is as good as mine. Back in '98, Bart Gunn won the awful Brawl for All tournament. Let's all let him know how much that mattered by feeding him to Butterbean in 38 seconds.
27 seconds left. Oh, there's the right hand, folks. It's over. Goodbye. It's over.
Watching a man's career implode in real time is strangely satisfying. And who can forget when The Undertaker continued his epic streak by beating the Big Boss Man in one of the most boring Hell in a Cell matches of all time. Golly, I sure can't figure out why they don't talk about this one all that much these days. You never really get that WrestleMania feel until near the end of the card. Shane X-Pac was a solid match with an amazing story. Impressive considering one of the people involved was not formally trained. The main event between Austin and Rock was good, but it was by far the weakest of all their main event encounters over the years. To me, the raging climax just felt like a tease, another episode of Attitude Era Raw. Ugh, I need a palate cleanser. Just show me Bart Gunn getting knocked out again.
Seconds left, seconds left, seconds left, seconds left, seconds left.
Ah. That's nice. Number 4. WrestleMania 2. So a year had passed after WrestleMania 1, and all the bookers got together, they sat in a room, and they thought, okay guys, here's the deal. Last year's show had a bunch of shit matches. What can we do to improve on WrestleMania 2? I know, we're gonna have even more shit matches and spread them out across 3 cities! More jobber squashes, a flying match that barely went 2 minutes, a women's title match that barely went 1, and a WWF title match that wasn't even the longest match on the card. And let's not forget the celebrities. You thought the WWF pulled out all the stops at the first WrestleMania? Well, brother, you're not gonna believe the iconic, legendary celebs at WrestleMania 2. Names like Kathy Lee Crosby, fast food mascots Herb and the Where's the Beef Lady, Watergate mastermind G. Gordon Liddy, a shit ton of NFL players, and of course, Susan St. James on commentary.
Very, very crafty.
Oh no.
And here, and again.
I don't know why they thought putting WrestleMania in 3 cities at once was a bright idea. Were the matches shown on pay-per-view the only ones that happened live in each city? No dark matches beforehand? If I were in the crowd at any of these shows, I would have felt ripped off. I don't know which city got the shittier deal. New York for a DQ finish of the boxing match, Chicago for the BS women's match and the 2-minute flag match, or Los Angeles for Adrian Adonis and Uncle Elmer. Not even Hogan Bundy was going to help bring the crowd back from that. And can you believe this pay-per-view happened on a Monday? God, what did this show do right? Number 3. WrestleMania 25. 2 words. I know WrestleMania is supposed to be the home of celebrity involvement, but come on! Kid Rock had worn out his pop culture welcome years before this show. Is this seriously the best it could have done? Limp Bizkit was more culturally relevant when they were at WrestleMania 19! The concert was unbearable not just due to its length, but also because it overlapped with the much ballyhooed Divas Battle Royal. It was a match that featured a lot of former divas that hadn't been seen in years. Not that you could tell, since none of them got a proper intro, and by the time the announcers mentioned who they were already eliminated.
Tori Wilson. Well, Tori Wilson eliminated. Sonny out there as well.
I couldn't have cared less about the world title triple threat, and my god, I wanted to care so badly about Triple H Jordan, but they never gave me a chance. The build-up was intense and riveting, but when it came time for the big blow-off, it was just so boring. You would expect some kind of extra brutality or maybe a surprise run-in, but neither happened. Triple H abruptly beat Orton clean, and that was the end of the show. Woo-hoo. I feel like we were spoiled by WrestleMania 20. I think that image at the end of seeing Benoit and Guerrero hold the belts up together with all the confetti raining down, I think as a fan base we all kind of agreed, okay, that's how it's going to go from now on. Every Mania that ends in a 5 or a 0 needs to have that iconic moment to close the show, but 25 left fans feeling deflated. And if the company's idea of an iconic moment for this year's Mania is to have Batista or Orton holding up the title while being pelted by a deluge of garbage, well, at least it'll leave me happy. Number 2. WrestleMania 9. Whenever WWE builds a physical Hall of Fame somewhere in Orlando, they need to have a big printout, a big picture of the WrestleMania 9 logo. They need to frame it up, big old fancy golden frame, and with a plaque that reads, "Can you believe what we thought was a good idea back then?" The first 2 matches were alright to start the show, but then things fell off the rails pretty quick. We got not 1, but 2 matches that ended in a DQ. First there was a tag title match between Money Inc. and the Megamaniacs, then Undertaker Giant Gonzalez just 2 matches later. And let's talk for a second about that match. I'm not going to talk about how bad the bulk of the match was, or how hideous and mentally scarring Gonzalez's outfit was. I'm going to talk about the finish. A disqualification? That's part of the whole legendary streak? Boo! Bullshit! Undertaker should not take ownership of that. Does not count. Strike it from the record book. And good lord, let's talk about the main event for a second. No, not the Bret Hart-Yokozuna match. I'm talking about what happened after that. In the use of backstage pulls so cartoonish in its excessiveness that it belonged in Hulk Hogan's Rockin' Wrestling, Hogan came to defend the honor of Bret Hart for no reason, and then he won the belt in less than a minute. What were they thinking letting Hogan pull off this shit in the first place? And then for him to have the gall to avoid dropping the belt to Bret Hart on his way out? What an awful ending to the biggest pay-per-view of the year for the company. I pine for the days of WrestleMania 1. I almost want to see a celebrity in the main event again. No. And the number 1 worst WrestleMania of all time is WrestleMania 11. Good God, what a cluster of a show. If you wanted a time capsule of everything that was wrong with the WWF in the mid-90s, this was it. I guess they were such bad financial times that they couldn't afford anything more grandiose than the backyard of Hartford, Connecticut.
WrestleMania 1. WrestleMania 2. WrestleMania 3.
Wow, they're really pushing this celebrity thing, aren't they? I would say they should focus on the big moments from past WrestleManias involving wrestlers, but when the guy who was responsible for most of those moments just jumped ship to the rival company, I can understand why they focus so much on the celebs.
This year, starring Baywatch's Pamela Anderson, Home Improvement's Jonathan Taylor Thomas, MTV's Jennifer McCarthy, NYPD Blues' Nicholas Turturro,
and some guys in tights or whatever. Fuck those guys. Anyway, let's get on with the matches. The opener was sloppy and quick. Razor Ramon got his pyro after the match already started. Undertaker beat King Kong Bunny with a friggin' clothesline. And how about the finish, that I Quit match?
Did he say it? No! What?
Oh yeah, sounds like I Quit to me. Michaels Diesel was a good match, and in all honesty, should have been the main event. But since this year's show was apparently Celebamania, we ended with Bam Bam Bigelow versus retired football player Lawrence Taylor. The match itself was passable, impressive even considering Taylor's lack of training, and it would have been a fine match literally anywhere else on the card, just not the main event. Having a celebrity in the main event of Mania 1 was okay for 2 reasons. One, Mr. T was protected by 5 other wrestlers in that match instead of just 1 for Lawrence Taylor, and they also kind of needed that extra celebrity shock value to really put that show over the edge and get people to watch it. But here we are, 10 years later, the WWF and WrestleMania have established themselves. WrestleMania has a reputation of the best wrestlers having the best matches, in theory. And here we have a celebrity taking on someone who is mid-card at best in Taylor versus Bam Bam Bigelow. Was the WWF in that big of a struggle against WCW at the time that this was what they thought was going to work? So there you have it. WrestleMania 11 is truly the worst of all time. But you know what? We're still a few days away from number 30. Who knows? I might need to update this countdown after Sunday. I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.